All right, welcome. So, if you're building anything with AI right now, you've definitely heard these two terms buzzing around, agents and workflows. And let's be real, they sound kind of similar. And the marketing, oh boy, the marketing can make it super confusing. So today, we're going to slice right through all that noise and figure out what the real difference is.
To really wrap our heads around this, let's start with a question. When you're building with AI, think about it like this. Are you creating a smart chef? Someone who can improvise, look in the fridge, and just whip up something amazing? Or are you just giving it a very, very detailed recipe to follow to the letter every single time? Turns out, that distinction, it's everything.
Okay, let's lock this in. For the rest of this explainer, just think. An agent, that's our chef. They're creative, they improvise, they make decisions on the fly. And the workflow? Well, that's the recipe, a fixed, reliable, step-by-step set of instructions. Seriously, burn that image into your brain, because we're going to keep coming back to it.
So here's what we've got on the menu today. First, we'll get into the real definitions. Then, we'll put them head to head. Then, and this part's really cool, we'll look at how workflows can get surprisingly clever. And finally, we'll get practical and talk about which tool you should actually choose. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, first up, a tale of two AIs. We've got our kitchen analogy down, the chef and the recipe. Now let's go a little deeper and see what's actually powering these things under the hood. So the agent, the key word here, the only word you really need to remember is dynamic. Hugging Face talks about this a lot. An agent is basically an autonomous system. It uses an LLM to figure out what you want, but then, and this is the key, it plans its own steps. It decides which tools to use to get the job done. There's no script. That's what makes it so powerful for those messy, unpredictable situations, like, say, a really weird customer support ticket that no one's ever seen before.
And then you've got the workflow. It's the exact opposite. LangGraph and other sources are pretty clear on this. Workflows are all about predefined paths. Think of it like a checklist, Every single step is planned out, the sequence is locked in, and the outcome is totally predictable. It's perfect for things that have to be consistent, like approving a simple leave request or something.
All right, so now we have our two definitions. Let's put them side by side and really nail down these differences. Okay, check this out. This table really lays out the trade-offs perfectly. With agents, you get a ton of autonomy and flexibility. They can basically think for themselves. But, and it's a big but, that means they're way more complex and honestly harder to control. Then you look at workflows. It's the reverse. You get total control, they're simpler, but they're rigid. No creativity, no improvisation. It's a classic trade-off.
Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, workflows sound kind of boring. Just a fixed checklist. But hold on, because this is where the story gets a really interesting twist. It turns out you can arrange those simple, rule-based steps into some incredibly clever patterns. The recipe can get a whole lot more sophisticated than you might think.
Okay, first up is a pattern called prompt chaining. The idea here is actually super simple. Instead of throwing one giant, messy task in an LLM, you break it down. You create a series of smaller, much more focused prompts. And the cool part is, the output from step 1 becomes the input for step 2.
Yeah, and this quote from Anthropic, by way of LangGraph, just nails it. You're basically breaking a big task into a sequence of smaller steps. Each little call to the LLM processes what the last one did. You might trade a tiny bit of speed, but what you gain in accuracy and reliability, it's huge. Each step is just easier for the AI to get right.
Here's a fantastic, simple example from LangGraph. So, step 1, you ask an LLM to generate a joke. But, and here's the clever part, it doesn't just show you the joke. The workflow sends it to a gate, like a little quality control checkpoint. This gate asks, hey, does this joke actually have a punchline? If the answer is no, it fails and gets sent to another step to improve the joke. Only when it passes that check does it get to the end. See? This simple chain makes the final joke way more reliable.
Okay, next pattern, routing. Now, if prompt chaining is like a straight assembly line, you can think of routing as a fork in the road. Or maybe even better, it's like a smart traffic cop for all your AI tasks.
And this quote really gets to the heart of it. Routing basically looks at an input, figures out what it is, and then sends it to a specialized follow-up task. The magic is in that specialization.
Instead of one generic AI trying to do everything, you have different paths with prompts that are experts at one specific thing. The results are just better.
And this flow makes it super clear. So a user says something. The first thing that happens is an LLM router looks at it. It doesn't write anything back. Its only job is to decide what kind of request this is. Is it a poem? Boom, send it down path A to the poetry specialist. Is it a story? Okay, off to path B. A joke? Path C. It's still a predefined workflow, right? The paths are all set. But that branching logic makes it feel so much more dynamic and powerful.
So this all leads to the big question, right? Which one should you actually use? When do you hire the creative, sometimes unpredictable chef? And when do you just stick to the tried and true recipe? Well, it really all comes down to the specific job you need to get done.
And the sources give us some really solid rules of thumb here. You want to use an agent for that open-ended, unpredictable stuff. Think analyzing real-time data or tackling a really complex customer problem that has multiple parts. That's a job for an agent. But for routine things, stuff you do over and over, like managing inventory or approving a basic HR request, a workflow is just going to be more efficient, more reliable, and way easier to manage. And this brings us to probably the most important takeaway. The word agent sounds cool. It's exciting, so of course it gets slapped on everything in marketing. But here's the thing. A lot of systems being sold as AI agents are really just very clever workflows. And that can lead to some major disappointment when they don't have that true, dynamic decision-making power you thought you were getting. Knowing this difference makes you a much smarter builder and buyer.
So that's what I want you to walk away with. The next time you see a product or a tool that's labeled an AI agent, just ask yourself this one question. Is this thing really thinking for itself, adapting on the fly? Is it a true chef? Or is it just following a very clever recipe? Now you know how to spot the difference. Thanks for tuning in.